So today we're going to talk about art history.
Okay.
First of all, why look into art and its history? Enhancing visual acumen through observing surroundings like architecture or nature enriches everybody's lives, like noticing details beyond first impressions. The skill applied to life encourages a more aware, alert, and present existence. So this video is about the importance of learning art history.
Okay.
So as I said in the video, artwork guides our gaze and shaping our meaning and perspective. Understanding how we look at a piece of art deepens our experience. As a thought experiment, imagine what a society without art would be like, how would buildings look, how would acceptable clothing or styles of dress be defined? Could any kind of visual communication exist at all? It's questioned.
Okay. Question 2.
So
okay.
This mirrors the complexity of gauging and the ongoing definition of art. Art is studied because it is among the highest expressions of culture, embodying its ideals and aspirations, challenging its assumptions and beliefs, and creating new visions and possibilities for it to pursue. When we talk about modern and contemporary art, we typically refer to the practice of fine art, but prior to the Renaissance art, it was defined within functional crafts like goldsmithing or other kinds of art. The idea of autonomous art or art for art's sake developed later over many eras.
Okay.
Studying art leads to a greater understanding of our own cultural values and other cultures. This person, Gustav, he painted Paris Street Rainy Day. Like this painting immerses us in the 19th century Parisian life.
Yeah, that's cool.
Critiques social roles, showing how artists direct our viewing experience. So today we're just going to be an introduction about elements of art and principles of composition, how to take a subjective approach to art.
Okay.
First of all, understanding a piece of artwork, it is broken down to smaller parts. People have summarized a few of the elements. The colors of the world can be divided in different ways. When we use the term color casually in daily life, what we actually mean is the hue. Hues appear on the visible spectrum, like from red to violet. On the spectrum, we see pure hues. These can be divided into primary, secondary, and tertiary colors, as on this color wheel. Primary colors include yellow, blue, and red. These are the three colors that cannot be created by mixing any other ones. Mm-hmm. And they combine to make secondary colors, which in turn combine to create tertiary colors. So in fact, all colors stem from the three, like yellow, blue, and red colors. I think you know that.
Yeah, I know that.
And another element is lines. Line is the most basic visual element. Lines can be used to find shapes and figures, also indicate motion or emotion, etc. We can also divide the lines into organic and inorganic or geometric shapes. Organic lines are loose curving lines like those found in nature.
Okay.
Lines like in this picture, the hair of people and clothes. The wrinkles are organic, but horizontal lines in the background are inorganic. We can also look for implied lines. These are not actually drawn, but we can connect the dots, literally or figuratively, to create the lines in our minds. The visions of people, for example, are implied lines. So basically, once we make it into the space of the painting by meeting the gaze of an angel, it will become a cycle of movement between the people, guided by the lines of sight.
Mm-hmm.
Third one is shape and form. Shape and form define objects in space. Shapes have two dimensions, height and width. And it's usually defined by lines.
Mm-hmm.
And form exists in three dimensions with height, width, and depth. Shape has only height and width, like it's two-dimensional.
Mm.
It is usually provided a contour. And form has depth as well as width and height.
Okay.
Three-dimensional forms the basis of sculpture, furniture, and decorative arts, and can be seen from more than one side. Mondrian, who drew this picture, is an excellent example of an artist who used geometric shapes almost exclusively. Okay. Drawing with yellow, red, and blue.
Mm-hmm.
He divided canvas into rectangles, primary colors, and forms. Yeah.
Okay.
Like shape, form can also be geometric or organic. Texture, light, and shadow. So in real life, light always travels in a straight line. Shadows are made by the light, always in a direct response to wherever light hits and whatever angle light is coming from, and the intensity of light source, whether it's dim or very bright. So if bright, high sunshine hits a tree directly from above, it makes a short shadow shape. But it does not necessarily help you as an artist to describe a subject. And later in the day, when the sun's very low, it will make a longer shadow and more interesting shape, so usually more representative of the essence of the tree and how you see the presence of light. And if a single light hits a cube, it will make a square shape. If a single light hits a sphere, an ellipse shape. So this is called light logic, and the shadow produced is called a cast shadow.
Okay.
The characteristics of the cast shadow are dependent on the intensity of light source. A hard light will produce a cast shadow with a sharp edge, and a soft light will produce a cast shadow with a more blurry edge. The longer the cast shadow is from the object, the softer the edge of the shadow becomes. Notice how drawing of the apples is the darkest light underneath the sphere, and then it gets lighter and lighter as it goes out further away from the light source. Also, a cast shadow behaves predictably when on flat surface, but when there are other levels of surfaces in the shadow's path, the shape can be altered depending on the surface over its face. So remember, when any object is drawn, it can be summarized into 3 parts of light and shadows. First one's light size, shadow size, and cast shadow. Light size includes the highlights and the halftones. Halftones is slightly darker than the light size, and shadow side is the darker part on the object, and cast shadow, yeah.
Okay.
And space, surface, and depth. Space is a word used to refer both depth, real or represented, and it's also the general surface area within a work of art. Some periods of art history show a great deal of interest in creating convincing illusions of 3-dimensional shape in a 2-dimensional media. You can see how the trees and the clouds are represented in different space in this picture.
Okay.
So moving on to principles of composition. Principles of composition actually consist of many, but most you can understand literally. So here are a few main ones. Radical symmetry is created when an image is symmetrical around a certain point, a central point, or axis. Radial symmetry creates a strong sense of unity in a work of art, and it's commonly used in sacred religious images. Perfect symmetry is not necessary to create a sense of balance in an image. So asymmetrical balance is created, and when 2 sides of an image do not exactly mirror each other, but still have approximately the same visual weight and the same amount of details or shapes or color, so on. And emphasis consists of drawing attention to one or more points in work. You can achieve that through location, line, and color. For example, in this picture, the figure in the center is using a very bright color, and size is slightly larger, so draws emphasis on itself. 哎，我好像把 FaceTime 打开了。
没事，爸。
Movement. Movement refers to a sense of motion as the eye is guided through a work of art. This can be accomplished by showing figures in motion or simply through the visual elements. Here, lines and colors help to convey the motion of people and animals. Like there's a strong shape. that brings us from top to bottom or from bottom to top. A repetition can be less structured than pattern, which is more regular. And both can work together to create a sense of rhythm. Like in this picture, the repetition seems to serve to support the center figuratively as well as visually. The repetition is very regular and establish a clear pattern. This pattern emphasizes the unity of a purpose shared by the thousands of figures, each an embodiment of ideal compassion. Rhythm is the visual tempo set by repeating elements in a work, which you can also see in the picture as well. Variety is the use of different visual elements throughout the work, whereas unity is the feeling that all parts of the work fit together well. They do not have to be opposites, as a work filled with variety may also have unity. And previous part is all about the objective components in art. However, artists are also required to be more subjective when creating their works. Subjectivity is when our ideas, beliefs, and opinions become involved in project, leading us to include our emotions in the decision what make arts different and thus reflects historical events is the subjectiveness in it. So from how artists process their own art, we divide painting, sculpture, and other art forms into two categories of representational. Sometimes it's also called figurative art, but it doesn't need to contain figures, and abstract and non-representational art. Representational art describes artworks, particularly paintings and sculptures, that are clearly derived from real object sources, and therefore by definition representing something with strong visual references to the real world. Most, but not all, abstract art is based on the imagery from the real world.
Okay.
The most extreme form of abstract art is not connected to the real world, visible world, and it is known as non-representational. Representational or figurative art represents objects or events in real life, usually looking easily recognizable. For example, a painting of a cat looks very much like a cat. It's quite obvious what the artist is depicting. And Romanticism, Impressionism, and Expressionism contributed to the emergence of abstract art in like the 18th, 19th century, as artists become less interested in depicting things exactly as they really exist. Abstract art exists on a continuum from somewhat realistic representational art to work that is not based on anything visible in the real world. And even representational art is abstracted to some degree. Extremely realistic art is elusive. There's no such thing as art being exactly seen as real life. And work that does not depict anything from the real world, for example, figures or landscape or animals, is called non-representational. Non-representational art may simply depict shapes, colors, or lines, etc., but many also express things that are not visible, for example, emotions or feelings. And abstraction indicates a departure from reality and depiction of imagery in art. Abstraction exists along continuum Abstract art can formally refer to compositions that are derived from a figurative or other natural source. It can also refer to a non-representational artwork that has no derivation from figures or objects. For example, Picasso. He is a well-known artist who uses abstraction in many of his paintings. Sculptures' figures are often simplified, distorted, exaggerated, or just using geometric shapes. Another thing is abstraction does not mean being far from real life.
Mm-hmm.
Even art, some of them aim for accuracy and truthfulness of the highest degree, can be said to be abstract, at least theoretically, since the perfect presentation is likely to be exceedingly elusive. Artwork which takes liberties, altering, for instance, color and form in ways are conspicuous and can be said to be partially abstract.
Mm-hmm.
So, in this talk, Scott Mallory shows how rhythm can enrich our understanding of who we are. Talks is through rhythmic gestures that people can identify with an artist in a deeper way. It cannot just be explained with words. Additionally, he explains how everything has rhythm and not just art, but also the way we think, we walk, talk, etc. And engaging with these rhythms helps him to relate to the world around him. Scott Mallory, he works with visual reality and many other things. I think the first 5 minutes of him is just him drawing, so skip the first 5 minutes.
And actually, I cannot hear the voice.